Hi, in this video I will talk about temporary tables. In X++ we use temporary tables a lot because it's handy. Also because we are working with mostly data, and this data structured as a table most of the time. So the temporary tables gives lots of advantage to manage these kind of data. Because of that, probably we are not using series too much. So let's look at our temporary table options. First of all, there are some different temporary tables and some different usage of these tables. First of all, we have standard temporary tables. Most of them start with TMP. These are the temp tables, standard temp tables. For example, I use, sorry, I couldn't find. Yes, this is my one of favorite temp table. When you look at the properties, its table type is in memory. We have three table type. Let's look at our one of our table, and what? Okay, for example, this one. This table's type regular. Regular means it's a regular table. It stores data. But if I changed in memory, this will be a temporary table for us, and this temporary table stores data in memory. If it's bigger than, I think, 128, it will store it in server-side file system. But if it's tempdb means SQL Server tempdb. So if you choose tempdb, it will be in SQL Server side. So it's more similar to regular table if you choose tempdb, and tempdb has some advantage. Also, has some limitation. We will talk about that too. But when I look at this standard TempDB, it has lots of general fields. So if I need a small TempDB, I will not create one because this TempDB probably has a field for me. But sometimes, of course, if I need some special field or some special structure for my business process, I can create a new temporary table. Creating new temporary table is similar to create new standard table. You will add a new item. You will create a table, of course. After that, let's create, for example, if the activity. Okay. After creating this one, I need to select, of course, table type. Let's select in memory. Now it's my this is my temporary table, so I can, of course, add new fields to this one. Let's create a ID, for example, activity ID, and maybe a real amount. Now I can use this temporary table in my code. You know, temporary tables only stores data when is your code scope. If it's out of scope, it will delete it. So there will be no stored data. You cannot see from table browser, or if it's a temp table in SQL site, etc. So It's as I said, it's a temporary table. So there are, as I said, we have two types temporary table. The temp DB is more similar to regular table and has lots of advantages. For example, it can be joined. Also, it can have foreign key columns. Can have indexes, and we can add methods. We can use in queries. Also, it supports transaction IDs, and also there are some validation. We cannot add delete action, or we cannot use in record level security, and also valid time state is not working in temporary table. So if you have this kind of requirements, it's probably best practice to create a regular table and clean up later. Of course, it's not something that suggested too much, but if you have a requirement like this, there is no option for in temporary table. Okay, let's look at how we can use these tables. First of all, you can use a new you can use a standard temporary table in your code, of course, like this TMP firm virtual. Let's create a new job, runnable class, of course. Okay, I will copy and paste for speed option. I have a small code here. Let's clear this one. Okay, I have a customer table here. I give a Turkish name for this one. It's not too important. Let's look at our customer. I think 30 is more better. Okay. Now I am using this temp table to insert account looms of this one, and I will I I will I will select this temporary records and info this records to screen. So I can do this with easily. Also, I didn't in this code I write this one, but it's not related to this example. Let's clear this one. I will show this usage after this example. Now it's the simple way to use temporary table. I insert some record to temporary table and to use this temporary table. When I run this one, of course, let's first okay, and start. Okay, it's worked and it will info the 16 record to us. And this is worked by this temporary table. It's a very simple usage of temporary table. You can use a standard temporary table. Of course, when you need a structure, for example, customer table structure, you can do this. It's not also suggested, but be careful with this kind of things. You can right click and duplicate in project. Now I'm duplicating the cost table in my project. Let's give it proper name. When you duplicate, it's a real duplication of cast tables. So you have lots of things like these methods. Probably it's best practice to delete all these methods before you do anything. I deleted this one. Also, I want to delete events. Okay. Maybe delete actions. Clear. I think delete action is if you if you do a certain thing. For example, I just insert some records, and uh, if I don't want or if I don't need these index, you can delete these ones too. And field group is not important. Relation is not important. But you need this clarification. After that, if you can clear extra fields. Of course, you will not need this number of fields. If you don't need these fields, you can delete this one. And after that, you need, of course, set table type to, for example, temp table. Okay. Now you have a customer table, temporary table. So it's not suggested too much, but if you have a certain type of structure like cast table structure or event table structure, you can copy and change table type, of course. Of course, we have another option. If you need just a small code for cast table structure, you can do it in your table buffer. Uh, let's look at a new example for that. Also, I will copy some code for that. Let's create another runnable class. And let me just in this example, I just created a new table buffer, cast table buffer, and I created another two table buffer. And in this table buffers, I called SetMap method. This method makes this table buffer a temporary table buffer, so it works like a real temporary table. Of course, it works like in-memory temporary table, if I'm not mistaken. So when I set something like this, for example, I set this one to some tmap, also I set this one to tmap, and I uh, pointed to first. Now, in memory, they are showing the same area. So they have a same data actually. Now, let's again let's delete this one. If I use this code to create a new record in our temporary table buffer, it will show this one. Also, this will run like this one. So let's run and look at how it's work. Okay, now as you can see, it's worked and I can see these records and these are from 1 to 2. Okay, let's go back and see these records. Now, stop this one. Of course, when we work with temp table, we want to send them sometimes in another class or another form, etc. We can send temporary table as a parameter. It's very simple, like a real table. You can send this one to any form or any class that you want. Of course, when you want to show these temporary records in form, you need to write a small code. It's different for in-memory and temporary table. I think we did some example for that. Let me look at our form, if I'm not mistaken. For example, in this code. Yeah, this one. The previous video we created a report for our activity, and in this report we used an activity report management class for populating some data, and this was a temporary table. Let's look at this temporary table. Okay, this is activity table report temporary, and we create this temporary table, and in form we use SetMap data to relate our temporary record to our data source, and it works perfectly. If this was a in-memory, this wasn't a in-memory table, and it was a TempDB table type TempDB, you need to use physical link method. This physical link method is very same with SetMap data. For this code, you need to use this one. Let's change and show the usage. Like this. Link physical table instance to your data source. Of course, it's best practice to use this code in forms data source init methods, like this. It's best practice to use here, but a change method is called from here, so you can use here too. So, if you want to use informs, you have two options. You can create either in memory or TempDB, and you can link this temporary table to your data source, and it will work perfectly. And be careful about temporary table, because especially if it is in memory, it can be sometimes, if data is huge, it can be sometimes slow, used for not much records. Be careful about the selected record size and count. Other than that, it's a very handy tool for X++ developer. I like to use temporary tables a lot. So sometimes I can struggle with containers. For example, which time I need to choose container, and which time I need to use temporary table. Some cases you can use both, but some cases you need to use a container if it's, especially you have a different type of object if you want to set. Also, memory table has lots of advantages. As you can see, you can directly point from data source, and sometimes it has indexes and other properties like methods, etc. So it's an important tool for X plus developer. Okay, that's all I want to say for this video. I hope it's helping. Happy Daxing.